Hello, AFT sisters and brothers. I am Evelyn DeJesus, and it is my great privilege and honor to speak to you as your Executive Vice President. Today, I'd like to talk about our brothers and sisters in Puerto Rico and how, in the AFT, we care, we fight, and we show up for these members. We showed up after hurricanes in 2017. We showed up after the earthquakes early this year, and now we are fighting together in this COVID pandemic. As a proud Puerto Riqueña from New York City, I must tell you, the island is very close to my heart. I have been on the ground with our AFT president, Randy Weingarten, with our fellow union members in the Asociación de Maestros de Puerto Rico.
You're not alone, no estás sola.
With their wonderful previous president, Doña Aida Diaz, and with their new president, my sister, Elba Aponte Santos. I have witnessed their pain and their tears, but I've also witnessed their determination to thrive despite disaster. The AFT stood with the AMPR during the ongoing political and economic crisis, as a corrupt Secretary of Education closed hundreds of schools and tried to charterize the rest. You know about Operation Agua, which delivered more than 100,000 water filters to schools and communities after Hurricane Maria. While President Trump made a big show of tossing out paper towels, we made sure that every single school could provide clean, healthy drinking water. Working with the AFL-CIO, AFT members were part of hundreds of nurses and other volunteers who flew to Puerto Rico to aid with relief efforts. If the labor movement hadn't stepped up in Puerto Rico, nothing would have been done. Then the earthquakes hit, and as the Trump administration continued to ignore this massive disaster and the devastation it caused, we reached out to AMPR, asking what they needed. And just 5 days later, the AFT was there. No one had a plan to open the schools until we bought tents to use as temporary classrooms. No one had a plan to take care of emotionally distraught kids who were displaced by the earthquakes until we worked with First Book to bring them books so they had something to do during this time. Now, Puerto Rico is suffering from the pandemic, and yet again, the government in San Juan or Washington, D.C. fails to care and show up for the people. We are the ones sending masks, face shields, and other PPEs for nurses and teachers. However, the island's problems didn't all come from hurricanes, earthquakes, and COVID. For decades, Puerto Ricans have faced horrible economic hardships from poorly funded public health and public education systems, housing, and other public services. The pandemic has made everything much worse. Thousands of people are still waiting for checks on flood damage claims from Hurricane Maria over 2 years ago. You may know the old joke, when the mainland sneezes, the island catches a cold. The economic turmoil here has sent unemployment rates through the roof. Since President Trump doesn't think Puerto Ricans are Americans, CARES funds have been very slow to reach our fellow citizens. As they plan for the new school year, students, teachers, and families face enormous obstacles. If Puerto Rico were a state, it would be the poorest in the Union, where close to 40% of homes do not have adequate broadband access for distant learning. However, AFT and AMPR will stand strong with students as they struggle to overcome economic, technological, and social barriers. We're not going away. The pandemic has put our entire country in turmoil, and as we rebuild, we must think about the consequences of the decisions we make. It is the moment where we must either invest in our future or forfeit it. We have to decide whether we prioritize public services for all of our communities here on the mainland and in Puerto Rico, or whether we saddle everything with more debt. Our next panel will take up the economic challenges and opportunities of this moment. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you about a place and a people so close to my heart. Gracias y Dios te bendiga.